World Trade Center finally opens its doors in a business there for the first time in 13 years and not without its share of controversy. But we got a preview. Aaron Katersky from ABC News getting a chance to give it a walkthrough. Did they charge you a cover charge, Aaron?
Not charge me a cover charge, but if you want to get up to the 102nd floor, which is going to be the farthest you can go, it'll be about $30 once the observatory opens in the spring of next year, and it's pretty spectacular. I mean, it's a view that hasn't existed in 13 years, and when you just see it, it's simply breathtaking, and it's a whole different experience than the top of the Empire State Building. This is going to be a whole kind of interactive thing, reminiscent of the old Windows on the World, but more than that. And it's like Google Earth when you're up there. You can kind of see the curvature of the planet on a clear day. You see well into the Long Island Sound, the Atlantic Ocean, Jersey, even into Pennsylvania, up into New England. And then, of course, just you look literally down on the rest of the Manhattan skyline.
The controversy I mentioned is the charge. A lot of people thought in the beginning that this was going to be something that was free to view by the public, and apparently that's not the case.
I don't know that there was really an expectation, though, that it was going to be free. I mean, I think that in this day and age, the expectation is that something always costs something, doesn't it? But to get up there is going to require a ride and probably the fastest elevator going. From the bottom to the 102nd floor in about 60 seconds, or maybe even a little less once it all gets up and running. And you don't even feel it. It's an amazing ride.
Good morning.
And then there's a slow reveal that the company that operates the observatory, Legends Hospitality, is going to provide. So I think it'll be pretty impressive.
It
the
sounds
cost,
stunning.
Of course,
yeah.
is unfortunate, I guess.
And what is the cost, Aaron?
I think it's about $30, and then there's assorted discounts, but it doesn't open for till spring of next year. But it like anything else down there, it's going to cost money to get to the 9/11 museum. Costs money, and that was controversial.
All right, you could get up
nonetheless, people have paid.
You could get up to the 102nd floor. It's 104 stories high, and let's get the conspiracy theorists started. What are on those two floors that we can't access?
Machinery. We asked just kind of some of the parts that make the building work.
Now, a building with a price tag of $3.9 billion is not going to make its money back $30 at a time. People riding the elevator going, ooh, and then going back down again. There's going to be businesses, by and large. Do we know who's going to be taking the space, and what's the occupancy rate at this point?
It's about 60-some-odd%, so they still have a ways to go. And there's some real questions, especially among New Yorkers, as to whether they actually want to work in that building. My wife, for example, says she has no desire to ever set foot in there, and let alone have to spend her time working in it. But the first tenants move in today. Condé Nast magazine publishers, so the folks behind GQ and Vanity Fair and Vogue and all the other marquee titles of that empire, going to be moving in there. I think it's about 3,000 employees when it's all said and done. They're going to occupy floors 20 through 44. And then there's a Chinese corporation that's going to occupy spaces near the top, and then the hospitality group Legends that's going to be doing the observatory. So it's getting there, but it's still not full yet.
Are they doing restaurants? Are they doing some residential also?
No residential in the building, but there are restaurants, and that'll be part of the whole observatory experience. And that's kind of like the old Windows on the World. And it was only really a restaurant up there. This is meant, for the public anyway, once you get up there, it's meant to be a whole different kind of experience, where not only can you just see the view and take that in, which is completely spectacular, but also you'll see some nods what used to stand on the site to 9/11. So there's a whole emotional component too.
As I'm wildly shallow, my first question is, what's the rent?
It's pricey. Although I think the initial tenants did get some discounts to move in and just to get the process started. But but I don't know the specific square foot dollar figure per square foot because it changes, I think, per tenant.
Aaron, I would imagine that the construction and the design of this building is probably a lot different than the original World Trade Center towers. Obviously, there must be some thought about a future terrorist attack.
No question, and the building was built with one in mind. Truthfully, it's designed to not necessarily withstand the impact of an airplane, but it's designed not to pancake on itself the way the old Twin Towers did. And so you have a whole different construction. It's the concrete is the strongest anywhere. 7 times stronger than what you walk on when you walk on the sidewalk. The inner elevator shafts are constructed differently. The stairwells are constructed differently, all to give people a far better chance at survival should something happen. And let alone the security. The whole building was redesigned at the outset because the NYPD didn't like some of its vulnerabilities. So before, years ago, the whole thing had to be redesigned with security in mind.
And I wonder about the families who lost people in that building. I wonder what it will be like for them to go back. And is there some special allocation, Aaron, for them to be able to go inside the building before anybody else?
There is, and they will not have to pay. Families of victims won't have to pay to get up to the top if that's where they want to go. But look, in the end, it's fun. It's just an office building, which is what the old one was. But it's one that I think, from its former name of Freedom Tower to its symbolic height of 1,776 feet, it carries a whole lot more, emotion and psychological bearing than the old building certainly did. And the hope is that people will come to embrace it the way they did the old Twin Towers, which took a long time. People hated the Twin Towers when they first were built, and it disrupted the entire skyline. The whole point of Manhattan is to build from the northern and southern tips toward the center, toward Midtown, and the old Twin Towers completely disrupted that. Now, though, there's a replacement for something that was an obvious loss. So the hope is that people will fall in love with the building far quicker than they did the old one.
ABC News correspondent Aaron Kantersky, thank you for the first look into One World Trade Center. And for the rest of us that aren't correspondents for ABC News, you'll get a look in the spring. Farrah, is that somewhere you would be interested in going if you were in New York?
Absolutely. I remember everybody has a 9/11 story, including me. In fact, actually, a year after it happened, I was working in a very small market, and I convinced my news director to let me go on my own to do a reporter's diary. So I was there less than a year after, and you could smell it everywhere. You could feel it. It was an eeriness that was so hard to avoid, John. So it would be really amazing to go back. And my brother used to work in the old Twin Towers.
Really?
And I had no idea that day that it happened, that he wasn't in there.
And a good thing.
And it was a good thing.
As you probably wouldn't be surprised by now, my 9/11 story is weirder than most. Because I was here, like a lot of the country, watching it unfold on television, and I was at a gym on a treadmill, which is weird enough.
All in itself, yes.
People don't believe it already at this point. But next to me, discussing the events of the day, was Carrot Top, the comedian.
Oh, my goodness, really?
Who was in town. Yeah, was in town to do a show that night, and he said to me at one point, he's like, should I even go on tonight?
Wow.
And I said, well, you're not funny, so probably not. No, I said, no, nobody's going to want to go out. Nobody's going to leave their TV. And I was right. And he rescheduled the show. So.
That's true. Nobody went anywhere that. It was 24/7 coverage, wall to wall.
Right. Yeah. That's right. So I was with Carrot Top and I was in a gym. So let the day of disbelief begin. It is 6:31. McGraw on vacation. I believe he's out all week, but no, just half the week. He's going to be back Thursday. He's out getting some personality implants, and we certainly hope that they take this time. Scott Carruthers will join us with the Morning Business Call a bit later on. Also, we'll get a look at news, and as you probably have gathered by now, Farrah Fazal from News Channel 5 in bringing us that today. Quick break, and we'll come back in a few. I heard a breath. Yes. Did you have a question?
Just a breath.
Oh, I thought...
Just breathing.
I thought you were going to say, tell me about Brown and Crouppen. Okay, I'll do it. Wednesdays, I know you listen to the show, so you know our Johnny Law segment, and that is brought to you by Brown and Crouppen, a law firm that since 1979 has racked up some pretty impressive